We are live. We are live. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue, that sits in the middle of Heisman City. Welcome on in. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. We have a pretty interesting show for you today. Wednesday, April 24th. It is one of those live shows that came together nicely because I had a long conversation earlier today, this morning, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, interesting. It should not have been surprising, but it was. Shame on me, but we'll get to that later. And then, so I'm sitting on this, and I'm like, so how do I present it? How do I present it to you all? And then an article pops up that I think illustrates it beautifully. beautifully. And so it all tied in just perfectly. It doesn't quite cover what my long conversation with somebody. North Carolina Chapel Hill is sitting on top of quicksand when it comes to realignment. And in months down the road, that quicksand could turn into a quagmire. And I'm just going to make an announcement right off the bat. I'll repeat it a couple of times. We've got one movement in the Holy Smokes Theater. Primetime drama. ACC drama. Not the matinee, which is a very important story that has just begun. Pack 2 and Friends. No, this is the nighttime. Primetime ACC drama. We got one movement inside the Holy Smokes Theater. And that is North Carolina and Clemson are no longer holding hands. They're just not holding hands anymore. North Carolina is right next to Clemson. Remember, it's Florida State, Clemson, center of the stage, then North Carolina. Then there's a little bit of distance, then it's Miami, and then way off in the corner in the shadows on the stage, but right near the exit of the stage, exit stage left, they call it, Notre Dame is sitting there standing in the shadows. North Carolina's not moving off the stage, it's not moving on the other side of Miami, but it's no longer holding hands with Clemson. And we're going to get into it. We had a long conversation. Now, who did I have a long conversation with? Remember, we've been on top of this North Carolina situation, right? Even before Mike Gusowich left to become the new chancellor of Michigan State, we reported to you accurately that there was a rock fight going on at UNC Chapel Hill. Mike Gusowich they were basically kicking him out. He became the new president of Michigan State. And then inside of North Carolina Chapel Hill, the powers, the people with interest that would like for UNC Chapel Hill, if they can't remain ACC, to become part of the SEC conference. We were up front with you. We gave you the peek around the corner. Everybody else has picked up what we've been laying down. And then the Board of Governors. We spent a lot of time on the Board of Governors. Very crucial, important part of this whole story. Now we're going to we're going to give you a peek around the corner on what is troubling people at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Now, and it's not just about possible realignment. It's about a whole lot of other issues. I'm not going to talk about those issues here on this channel. This is a college football YouTube channel. National college football YouTube channel. But I only talk about politics if it affects college football, right? And, and we're going to get into it here. We're going to get into it. But just back up a moment. It's easier for a person to hit the nail with the hammer when you've got one hammer in your hand instead of 5 hammers in your hand. It takes a hammer. It takes a single hammer to drive that nail in. Look at when Maryland made the announcement that they were going to the Big Ten. Oh my goodness, protest, faculty, but the president had the power at the time to make it happen. Texas, not everybody was unified behind Texas. Believe it or not, when Texas, Oklahoma called the SEC, not everybody was unified. Faculty members said, we're not, Texas, University of Texas, Austin should not be going to the SEC, but the person who had the decision had the power to make it happen. The examples over and over again. UCLA, holy smokes, they were battered and bruised, a calamity tax. But they had the power, they barely had the power to get it done, to be in Big Ten. It takes a hammer, one hammer, to drive in the nail. If you got more than one hammer in your hand and you're swinging it, who knows what you're going to hit. That is what's going on at UNC Chapel Hill. Not just about realignment, but about a whole bunch of decisions going on there. Greg, how do you know this? Well, first of all, and I've been open on this, although this does not relate to this situation, but I had a family member, North Carolina professor, Chapel Hill. But this does not have to do with my nephew. We know the lay of the land at UNC. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, I reported to you exclusively saying, and it wasn't that big of information, but I had to forward it to you just because at some point we got to connect the dots, try to connect the dots, but I reported to you that there was a certain body at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, that asked another certain body at the University of Chapel Hill, how do we go about, what would be the process if the ACC implodes, right? Let's just cut it. Let's just get blunt with this. What if Florida State and Clemson, what if the ACC decides to have a settlement with Clemson and Florida State? What would be the first step that North Carolina Chapel Hill would take? What is the process going in front of the Board of Governors? And it's not just about realignment. It's a host of issues, because there's a host of issues, including realignment, possible realignment, conference affiliation, that the Board of Regents, the Board of Trustees at UNC Chapel Hill cannot make a decision on. Those residing in the campus cannot make a whole lot of decisions. It's being made elsewhere. That's why they're sitting on on top of quicksand. Are they going to be able to move quickly at all? Are they going to be able to move at all? Are they going to be able to? And again, in an article was put out today, just a simple little article, Politics in North Carolina, that sums this up beautifully. And I'm so glad it came out. And a couple of people gave me the heads up, and I said, yeah, I'm on it. We've already got it in the system. We know this fits in beautifully of what we were going to talk about today because of the information we had received that peek around the corner. Sometimes You know how it is when there's so many cooks in the kitchen. What type of soup are you going to cook? And that's where we're at with what type of ingredients do you even buy, etc., etc., etc. That's what we're looking at, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. We're also going to be going over just a little bit of a John Canzano article. Just a little bit of it. Long article. We're just taking about maybe 10% of it. An interview with the new president of Oregon. Interesting information coming out of there. Very interesting information coming out of there. So, and also, Reggie Bush is getting his Heisman Trophy back. We did episode, I think it was 395, 396 this morning. Breaking news, reported by ESPN, Pete Thamel, Reggie Bush is getting his Heisman Trophy back. He won in 2025. He had to give it up 2010, and now he's getting it back in 2024. So I put out a tweet saying, and I hashtagged it, Bush Push 2. You remember Bush Push? When he got pushed into the end zone, when USC Trojans defeated the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, when Reggie Bush got pushed into the end zone by the quarterback. This is Bush Push 2. Reggie Bush is getting his Heisman Trophy back. And so I put out a tweet saying, okay, all right. Bush 2, Bush Push 2. This is my Bush Push 2. Okay? 1997, Minnesota Golden Gophers basketball team. They were the Big Ten champions, Final Four, but we had to take those banners down years ago, couple decades ago, because of a supposed scandal that wouldn't even make the front page. They wouldn't even make the sports page anymore. We wouldn't even talk about it here at Peek Around the Corner. So my Bush Push 2 is Minnesota Golden Gophers basketball team gets to hang up the 1997 Big Ten champion banner, Final Four banner. Pete Rose gets to go into the Hall of Fame, an induction into the Hall of Fame, and Seinfeld gets to redo their final episode. So in the chat room or with your phone calls later in the show, let me know what your Bush Push 2 is. Let me know what retroactively, what you would change, what your favorite team in college football, now the ruling has to flip, right? The ruling has to flip. It could be a call on the field that your team lost, an important game. Whatever it is, let me know in the chat room. Let me know in the phone calls. What is your Bush Push 2? Okay, let me thank everybody for coming on in at the beginning of our show. Holy smokes. Ryan Brooks, LSU, hello. James Foster is in the house. For the Canes, Don Scruggs, Mr. Georgia, Bulldog, Charlie Atwood, Penn State, The Walking Geek, Preston from Greensboro. Is it bad news? It's not good news, but it's something to be aware of, right? It's something to be aware of. And I think most people at North Carolina already know this. Kerry Gold Nose is in the house. Thomas is here. Stephen Vitt is here. Bill G, good afternoon. Dandy S, Joe Z, Rain Russell, let it rip. Steve Webb, Cyclone Matt Neeson is in the house. David Kreisker, Skaven, yes, Mad, hello, Mad Gopher. Joe Z, Rob, Ellen. Good afternoon. Let's go Tigers. Jen is in the house. Stephen Clark is in the house. Caleb Ramirez is here. Heartbreak 25. I am not afraid, and I'm here for it like every day. Thank you, Heartbreak 25. I do appreciate it. Gator Hater is in the house. Tough Tony, say it ain't so. Immaculate, he is here. Mr. Hawkeye Derek Marie is in the house. The serial killer, Laura Weiss, the Texas Tech Red Raider is here. Richard L., Mr. Colorado Buffalo, Jan Seminole, Grateful Trojan, happy Reggie Bush Day, everyone. Daniel is here. C. John is here. KS Bear Fan is in the house. Elliot Howard is here. Steve-O. Gene Calderon is in the house. A lot of people here, man, at the beginning of the show. I thank you so very much. Very humbled. Keith is here. Thomas is here. The Architect. Reggie Bush, what a talent. We witnessed greatness. Yes. You know, that was 19 years ago. There's people in the chat room that never watched him play live. I think Reggie Bush started in 2003, right? Yeah, he was a talent. He was fun to watch. Fun to watch. No question about it. Luis Torres is in the house. Yes. Lionheart pushed to beat the Irish. No question about it. And it pains the Notre Dame Fighting Irish fans till this day. They feel the pain of it today. And I'm calling this Bush Push 2. Reggie Bush pushed in back to grabbing his Heisman that he deserved. So what is your Bush Push 2? What would you like to have retroactively changed? I haven't seen one in the chat. I better see one soon. When you call, I'm going to ask you. So buckle up and get ready. The Florida man is in the house. The Big Lubbock. David Johnson. Jeff Morgan. Holy smokes. Gene Watson. Okay, let's get to it. Okay. Drinking zero sugar, Coca-Cola, vanilla. Gotten off the cherry. I'm on to the vanilla. I need something a little bit lighter. Okay, here we go. So we're going to get to the big story first. I'm still trying to figure out, even though we're deep into the story, I'm still trying to figure out how to present this to you. Again, had a conversation. There is frustration in it. And there's frustration at every campus on decision making, right? That's fine. But in this North Carolina Chapel Hill, the Board of Trustees, they don't have much power. There's a lot of decisions being made that are outside their hands. And of course, when it comes to conference affiliation, their power has totally been stripped. We are fortunate. I am fortunate that this article came out late afternoon. Very fortunate, because this is going to illustrate that right now we call it North Carolina Chapel Hill sitting on the top of quicksand. Now, North Carolina, they're going to be on the stage. They're going to remain on the stage in the Holy Smokes Theater. Very valuable brand. At the end of the day, it's not going to cost them a seat at the dance. But It's going to cause a lot of commotion, chaos. It could cost them something that we can't envision right now. The top NC Senate Republican on college conference realignment. No rash decisions. Again. Brian Murphy, WRAL News. Less than 2 years ago, North Carolina lawmakers approved millions to keep the Atlantic Coast Conference headquarters in the state. It was but a small nod to the vast importance of the league to the state, which is home to 4 founding members, the league's birthplace, and most of its conference championships. Again, we provide a link in the description. You can read the whole thing. Now, the ACC's status as a top-tier college athletic conference is threatened by the explosive growth of revenue by other conferences and lawsuits from Florida State and Clemson, and the league's best football program seeking an easier and less expensive path out. The SEC and the Big Ten are generating ever-increasing revenue, and as a result, gaining power in shaping the future of college athletics. The ACC, now a distant number 3, some people might even call them number 4, faces a future where its most attractive members leave, and the gulf between it and the other 2 leagues is too large. The fate of the ACC is not an insignificant question. It's not an insignificant question among state lawmakers. Given the investment in UNC Chapel Hill and North Carolina State University, as well as private schools, Duke and Wake Forest. I would like to see the ACC continue as a major conference for all college athletics. Senate Leader Phil Berger, Republican, Rockingham County, said. Now, this Phil Berger, Senate Leader, when it comes to the legislature in the state of North Carolina, there is nobody more powerful than Phil Berger. Now, the state of North Carolina has a governor from the Democratic Party, the Senate leader from the Republican Party, Phil Berger, and he would like to see the ACC continue as a major conference for all college athletics. Lawsuits in North Carolina, Florida, and lawsuits in North Carolina, Florida, and South Carolina may well decide the future of the league, and as a result, dictate what options are available to North Carolina State, Duke, and Wake Forest. Other courts where athletes could be deemed employees are found to be owed millions in back pay or other compensation could also dictate the future of college athletics. Now, just so everybody knows, the PATC money shot in this article is the very last sentence. And this is a short article, so we're gonna get there in a heartbeat. The PATC money shot of this article illustrates why we titled this show North Carolina Chapel Hill is sitting on top of Realignment Quicksand. UNC and North Carolina State have not indicated publicly that they want to leave the ACC. Though the chairman of the UNC's Board of Trustees criticized the league and Commissioner Jim Phillips for a gross abdication of responsibility. ACC members are currently tied to the league through 2036 through a grant of media rights, though it's under attack by Florida State and Clemson. Remember, we covered that story. UNC Board of Trustees, the chairman, prior, criticized the league, criticized Jim Phillips, said that North Carolina should be able to talk with other leagues. Remember, we should be able to have meaningful discussions. But the UNC's Board of Trustees, the chair and everybody else, doesn't have any power when it comes to conference affiliation for UNC Chapel Hill Tar Heels, right? Whoa. Sorry. Whoa. Okay. The UNC System Board of Governors recently gave itself more power over universities that wish to change athletic conferences. Again, this is Berger. Berger, the Senate leader, Republican Party, Rockingham, the most powerful person in the legislature in the state of North Carolina. He says the following: I do think there are some larger challenges out there that seem all to be driven by major college football more than anything else. My thought is that if you give it a couple of years, a lot of that will settle. A lot of that will settle out. Because a lot of has to do with how much money has been offered to campuses and conference to put their teams on television. So, Phil Berger, my thought is that if you give it a couple of years, just give it a couple of years, a lot of that will just, settle out because, a lot of it has to do with how much money has been offered to campuses and conferences to put their teams on television. And finally, at the end of the article, the PATC money shot. Again, Phil Berger, State Senate. The ACC at one time had the best contract as far as that's concerned, and how quickly that changes. I think those things can change again pretty quickly. So I would hope no rash decisions take place. I want you to look at that. This is not just any old politician. This is the most powerful guy in the legislature. They're the ones who put the people on the Board of Governors. They're going to be replacing some people in the Board of Governors after this next election. The ACC at one time had the best contract. And how quickly that changes. I think those things can change again pretty quickly. They're not changing again pretty quickly. What are you talking about? The ACC is not going to be making more money than the Big Ten and the SEC. They're not going to be close. They have a contract to 2036. How can it even change quickly? It's Preston from Greensboro. Army used to be a football powerhouse too. Yeah, so were my Minnesota Golden Gophers. Look, and this fits so perfectly for what, again, I let a couple people know this was going to be the topic of the show. at about 11 o'clock this morning, because we had the long conversation early this morning about how North Carolina's sitting on they're sitting on a mountain, they're sitting on top of quicksand. They cannot move. Paralysis by analysis. If you saw the first title page of the show. Paralysis by analysis. When you got Phil Berger, the most powerful, you're including so many people in this decision making. The process now, again, I told you, maybe one of these days we'll try to figure out a way for me to show you a document. I'm just going to call it a document. We know that there has been communication at UNC Chapel Hill. There's been questions about how do we do this, how do we do that. Before, again, I think at some point you've taken as much information as possible. In some point you have to make a decision. At some point somebody has to look out for UNC Chapel Hill. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen here. And it's not just about conference affiliation. It's about how they set up their own Board of Trustees meetings. Everything's being dictated to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And they had their own rock fight. Go Google North Carolina Chapel Hill. Incredible university, incredible brand, incredible people. But they don't know who they are. They don't know that it's a rock fight on the vision of the university. And then when it comes to conference affiliation, those at the university don't have any power, don't have any litigation power, don't have any settlement power. They're just sitting there. They don't know how. We know this here at Peek Around the Corner. They don't even know how to start the process. Everything is new. Again, the ACC at one time had the best contract as far as that's concerned, and how quickly that changes. I think those things can change again pretty quickly. Well, what world are you in? You know what? You're not in this world. That's the problem. Phil Berger, you might be the most smartest guy I've ever met in my life. You might be the most gifted politician, the most powerful politician. I might agree with you on 60% of the issues. Who cares? But you don't have a clue what's going on here. You don't. If you think things can change quickly, the ACC, if you think North Carolina's going to get the media money that Illinois, Michigan, Alabama, Tennessee is going to get anytime in the next 14 years, anywhere close. Like anywhere close. Do you know, Phil Berger, that the ACC now is going to be making even less when it comes to the college football playoff distribution model? I don't think he knows any of this. I don't think he has any understanding of what's going on. Now, remember, it's not really his job to know. But these are the people. Phil Berger is the person who puts people at the Board of Governors, the 24-member body, the system president, Peter Hans. And in the, you know, and they talked about this board of governors is really only supposed to be have the interest of the public universities. And then that article and what we were told this morning, they still kind of, you know, they still don't want Wake Forest and Duke to be left out. Well, they're sitting in quicksand. And that is why, among other reasons, one movement update in the Holy Smokes Theater, if you've just come on in, North Carolina, still on the stage, right next to Clemson, but they're not holding hands with Clemson anymore. They just don't have the one single hammer that can hit the nail. They've got 5 hammers in their hands, which is useless. Go through the history of this. Texas and Oklahoma got together and they called Sankey together. They had the internal power to make a decision. USC, I wish I could get more into the story. We were the ones that broke it, but the leak came out of the athletic department to a booster at USC. He called the boosters in the Big Ten. The information got to me. USC, the president, Folt, said, had the power, had a whole bunch of pushback, but had the power, got it done. UCLA barely had the power to squeak it through. Maryland, it was chaos. But the president of Maryland had the one single hammer that could get it done. Clemson, look at Florida State. Look at Peter Collins. Look at what the Board of Trustees and the president, Richard McCall, they're all united, all aligned. Clemson has been waiting to pull the trigger for a year now. And whatever reason they had, they finally, that one hammer, they could make the decision. The government's not involved. South Carolina's not involved. The University of South Carolina is not involved. Clemson had the space to make a decision. We don't even talk about Virginia Tech and Virginia on this show when it comes to this realignment. Even though they were part of the Magnificent Seven, because they are so politically intertangled with each other. So, Kerry Gold knows, give Bobby Bowden back his wins. That's Kerry Gold knows. Push 2. Very good. Give Bobby Bowden back his wins. Reggie Bush has the Heisman. Kerry Gold knows says, give Bobby Bowden back his wins. Ryan Thomas. UNC said no to the Big Ten in 2012 and screwing up again. It's not even UNC screwing up. UNC doesn't have the power to screw up. They don't have a power to screw up, and they don't have a power to hit the home run. They don't even have the bat in their hands. They can't even go up to the plate. They can't even take a swing. And that's why they're no longer holding hands with Clemson. Ryan Thomas, UNC did say no to the Big Ten. So did Virginia. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan Thomas. Thank you for the super chat, Kerry Gold knows. The evil badger, Ryan Willie, NC legislator have blindfolds on. UNC might not be able to leave the ACC. If it implodes, things happen, settlement, yes, they will. We're not reporting that North Carolina is not going to be able to get out, but they're not going to be able to help. You guys understand? Maybe I should have made that more clear. When things implode in the ACC, North Carolina's is they're going to be able to make the move, but they're not going to be able to help. They're not going to be able to help Florida State and Clemson. They're just not going to be able to do it. A couple weeks ago, we got that information on the questions, the frustrations, one body of UNC talking to the other body. We reported that to you, and it's just more of the same this morning. And then this article came out. North Carolina and Clemson are not. North Carolina, when we talked about strength in numbers, when everyone would boldly rush the ACC, it's just not happening. North Carolina cannot do it. They don't have the power to do it. Miami, their president is not in position. He's not that type of individual. And Notre Dame, they're in the shadows. They're 5. They're just sitting there waiting to see what happens. In fact, the only decision North Carolina has been able to make is not go to these meetings to vote out Florida State and Clemson. Well, wait. Let me take that back. Maybe they didn't even have that decision. Maybe they couldn't even go because they didn't have the power to vote on litigation. Who knows? It's all screwed up there. Great university, great people, great brand, incredible, valuable university on all different levels. But the quagmire, the quicksand, we're going to call it the quicksand right now. We'll probably call it the quagmire a little bit later. It's real. It's real. And again, I'm so fortunate that this article came out because it's a great way to buttress my reporting on this. I mean, here's Phil Berger. Let me get back here because there's new people here. Phil Berger, Senate leader. I would like to see the ACC continue as a major conference for all college athletics. It's not an insignificant question among state lawmakers, given the investment in Chapel Hill, North Carolina State, as well as the private schools of Duke and Wake Forest. I do think this is Phil Berger. I do think there are some larger challenges out there that seem all to be driven by major college football more than anything else, Berger said. My thought is that if you give it a couple of years, a lot of that will settle out. Listen, Phil Berger, again, not your common politician, your most powerful legislator in the Senate in all of North Carolina, besides the Governor Cooper, who's a Democrat, and then Phil Berger is a Republican. Berger is the one that pushes the people onto the Board of Governors. I do think there are some larger challenges out there that seem all to be driven by major college football more than anything else, Berger said. My thought is that if you give it a couple of years, a lot of that will settle out. Give it a couple of years, a lot of it will settle out. What world is he living in? He's not living in the college football world, and that's a problem. If you give it a couple of years, a lot of that will settle out because a lot of it has to do with how much money has been offered to campuses and conferences to put their teams on television. And then again, the PATC money shot of the article. The ACC, this is Phil Berger, the ACC at one time had the best contract as far as that's concerned, and how quickly that changes. I think those things can change again pretty quickly. So I would hope nothing rash, no rash decisions take place. This is the guy. it's not the best way, the best process to make decisions for the University of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Okay, so let me get to the second story. I want to get to your phone calls and comments as quick as possible. I want everybody to let me know what their push 2 is. In other words, what do you want retroactively changed when it comes to your sports, your favorite team's past history, right? You want that call to be changed. You want that invitation into the playoffs. You want that different coach. What would you like to be able to go back and change retroactively when it comes to your Iowa Hawkeyes, your Clemson Tigers, your Purdue Boilermakers, your Fighting Illini, Illinois, whatever team it is, give me your best push 2 scenario. Okay, let me get to this. This is a fascinating. Thank you guys for the donations. I do appreciate it, helping us keep the lights on here at Peak Around the Corner. John Canzano article this today. We're just going to go just over a little part of it. Just a tiny part of it. Oregon President Carl Schultz goes one-on-one, exclusive Big Ten move. Phil Knight. Austin expansion, the stadium. We're not going to go through that or Phil Knight. There's a lot of it we're not going to talk about. Eugene, 5 weeks after the beginning of Carl Schultz's tenure as campus president, the University of Oregon announced it was joining the Big Ten Conference. There's a little bit of information here, guys. I think you wanna listen to. I sat down for an interview with Schultz this week at Johnson Hall, the administration building that houses the UO's president office. It marked the first time Schultz granted a sports-centric, one-on-one interview and talked publicly about a variety of topics. You've been drinking to a fire hose since taking over. What has it been like for you in this season of life? Schultz, just overwhelmingly positive. People have been incredibly warm and gracious. There are great people here. You used the phrase drinking from a fire hose. Certainly there's been some of that, but also people have been incredibly welcoming. I get to work with great people, and so we can start to try to focus on the things that will make a positive difference for the university. It's been really exhilarating. Again, we're not going to go through much of this. There's a little bit of negative information here. I think you all going to want to keep it in the back of your mind and let it marinate. Let it marinate as we connect more dots when it comes to the future of college football. The next question, or maybe not the next question, but the next question we're going to be covering here. I'm curious about your background in economics. Okay, listen up. I'm curious about your background in economics. We've heard about private equity having an interest in investing in college conferences and universities. Where do you stand on that? Is that a healthy discussion, or do we need to help private equity out of higher education? It's healthy to discuss any idea. President Schultz, University of Oregon. That's what universities are about, and that's what good leadership is about. And so we'll consider anything that comes down the pike. It's way too soon to say this is a great idea or this is a bad idea. I think if I were a betting person, an extended pause by Schultz, I should have stopped my answer. Okay, let's say you are a betting person. President Schultz answers, it's a long way away. So I think, just my opinion, let me know what your opinion, your speculation on it. To me, that's an indication that The Big Ten might have had, of course, they've had discussions on it, but it's nothing that's going to be happening anytime soon, if it ever happens at all. I think he made it pretty clear that that type of private equity for the Big Ten, probably not going to happen. Now, we'll see what happens once they get that bill, once they have to pay the NCAA versus House versus NCAA. But for now, not going to happen. The athletic department at the University of Oregon is one of the few self-sufficient athletic departments. Most schools are not. How important is that to you? That the line is held, and how proud of you are you of that? There is a self-sufficiency here at Oregon. Very, very proud of that. I think there's probably, 20 or so, give or take, universities in the country that can make that claim, and that's very, very important. You take over the question, John Canzano. You take over in July. Then the University of Oregon and Washington announced they're going after the Big Ten in August. It was a complicated time. I grew up in the Pac-12. I grew up watching 108 years of history. It was hard for me and others to watch that go. Simultaneously, if I put myself in your shoes or in the shoes of your trustees, you have to do what's best for your university. What were the conversations like that as it was happening? President Schultz. So the world of big-time intercollegiate athletics is getting turned on its head. It's still getting turned on its head. Not past tense. As I said, I was at the University of Wisconsin-Madison when USC and UCLA came to the Big Ten. That's off the top, 40% of the media market of the Pac-12. The University of Colorado moved to the Big 12 before any deal was on the table. Before any deal was on the table. In other words, now at this time, he was the leader of Oregon, or at least interim, or whatever you call that, designate. He knew what was going on. University of Colorado moved to the Big 12 before any deal was on the table. There was no deal. Remember how I kept saying that? There is no deal. Just projections, false numbers, doubling up. Remember all that? We reported to you all. There was never a deal. There was never a deal presented. We got raked over the coals, but there was no deal. And so this thirst for stability, like you, I feel deep sadness about the Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-8, but the world was changing and the University of Oregon needed to find stability, and we took advantage of an opportunity that provides that stability. And it has other collateral benefits, right? Visibility, we have a national brand, and the ability for people to see us on so-called linear TV. That's really important as we recruit students, not just from the state of Oregon, but from around the country and around the world. Another reason, listen up, another reason why the Big Ten wanted to go national. Of course, they wanted Los Angeles, but they wanted to go west again. And it's the reason why the Big Ten wants to get into the Southeast. They don't, not just about the student athletes, but about students. It's not just about grabbing new markets, it's about grabbing students. It's about expanding the brand of the Big Ten. It's about expanding the brand of the SEC. The Big 12 did the same thing, and they're going to try to do the same thing again. And then the Big Ten has a whole set of academic aspects that are going to make us better. The Big Ten library shares resources in something called the Big Collection. So we can draw on the East Asia collection, at the University of Michigan, and the Latin American collection at UCLA as we share resources. And they in turn can borrow our collections, our deep, wonderful collections in the Pacific Northwest. And so that's good. And finally, in the article, we share the teaching of almost never taken languages and things like Swahili or Urdu, where tens of millions and sometimes hundreds of millions of people speak these languages. So they're vital for the connective global environment, but there's not enough demand on any of our campuses to do a 4-semester sequence in Swahili, so we can partner with other institutions. Then there's a whole bunch of leadership training that the Big Ten does very, very, very well for department chairs or deans or other vice presidents. Drawing that is important. People say, oh, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. You know, I'd be lying if I said money didn't play some role here, but there are other things that are really, really important to us. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this again. When we get to that moment of further expansion, the Big Ten presidents and Fox Sports, the Big Ten presidents. I'm gonna get some people mad at me here, but look, the Big Ten. I'm gonna focus on the Big Ten right now. Then we're gonna focus on the SEC. Focus on the Big Ten wants. They want national diversity. They want institutions that can add on to what they already have. Washington was a big, massive add-on. Huge research university. Huge. Like bigger than big. Bigger than the University of Minnesota, for goodness sake. Big. And then Oregon, we talked about Oregon, brand multiplier, and the president's trying to tell you about the big collective, the big library. We've talked about it, sharing resources, faculty. So look ahead to the next possible expansion. And I'm going to tell you, if it's up to the Big Ten presidents, and a lot of it is, but not quite. They don't control. If it's up to the Big Ten presidents, no question, Notre Dame, North Carolina are very, they're the top two targets. But if North Carolina gets circled by the SEC, which the SEC's been doing, if Notre Dame's just going to remain in the dark shadows at the edge of the Holy Smokes Theater, which they probably will do for now. If those top two targets, the next two targets, I'm telling you, are Florida State and Miami. You're talking about diversity of market for the Fox Sports. You're talking about diversity of research. We're going to talk about more of the University of Miami in the weeks and months ahead. That's why we have Miami at the center of the stage. That's why we have Miami going to the Big Ten more forcefully than pretty much anybody else who's talking out there. The Oregon president gives you a little bit of a hit. The Big Ten wants to add on to what they already have when it comes to diverse research, culture. And the Fox Sports wants to add on diverse market in Miami, and the Florida State blend works for the Big Ten. That's why we have it up in the sports book. If the Big Ten can't get into North Carolina, and the SEC's doing all they can when it comes to cloak and dagger stuff to make sure that Big Ten doesn't grab the state of North Carolina. Okay, Ryan Willie. I'm sorry, I didn't get Ryan Thomas. Who's going to tell Phil about the CFP money drop after Florida State Clemson go? Let's not forget the devaluation of the ACC TV deal. I don't know. I don't know, Ryan. I don't know. And again, he's not just another politician. He knows, Phil Berger knows enough to be dangerous, right? You can tell he's had conversations. In my mind, you can tell he's had conversations in which it's like, no, too rash, no. He's a wet blanket on it. And you know what? Maybe that's a good decision for now. But if they have to switch, is he going to switch quick enough? He's had enough discussions. He has enough knowledge to be dangerous because ultimately he doesn't know what he's talking about, to be honest with you. If he thinks things are going to change quickly in favor of the ACC when it comes to media rights, which he says, right? He says it. It's not me who's saying it, it's him. The ACC at one time had the best contract as far as that's concerned, and how quickly that changes. I think those things can change again pretty quickly. So I would hope no rash decisions take place. Yeah. So thank you, Ryan Thomas, for your generosity to this channel. Once again, I do appreciate it. The evil badger, Ryan Willie. This is Ryan Willie's Bush Push 2. Bush Push 2. Can we have a do-over and wipe Gary Anderson's record from the record books? Brett and Gary screwed Wisconsin. Can we throw Morton's record in there too? Holy smokes, that's a good one. I forget about Gary Anderson sometimes. That's a good one. I like that one. Ryan Willie, thank you for giving us your Bush Push 2. I appreciate it. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your super chat. Okay, let's get to your comments. Let's get to your phone calls. I got to open up the phone lines here. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. If you want to become a member, Cloak and Dagger Early Peak. We're dropping one early tomorrow morning. We're dropping an episode for members only. Cloak and Dagger. If you want to become a member, give it a hit the join button. Go to the description box. Hold on.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, can you hold on for just 1 second?
Sure.
I do appreciate it. Go to the link provided in the description box. Hit the link, then hit the join button and become a member of this Rebel Outpost College Football YouTube channel. Become a Cloak and Dagger member. Ryan Thomas, thanks for your patience. The floor is yours.
I have a question, Greg.
Yes, sir.
Has Bill Berger's cheese slipped off his cracker and onto his steak?
Well, that's in Minnesota.
Has it not only slipped off, has he also cheesified his steak?
That's an upper Midwest saying. I don't know if that works in North Carolina. Something has slipped, though. I can tell you that. But go ahead.
I mean, the thing is not only like I said, when UNC and Clemson leave, like the value of the CFP money is going to drop. I mean, you're not going to be getting 17% of the total pie after that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And the TV value is going to drop as well. But also, the longer that North Carolina sits on the side, the harder it will be to help get NC State into a major conference with it. Because, let's say the Big Ten just grabs Clemson and FSU. Let's just say, or Miami, and let's just say that movement starts to happen, Greg. The longer they dither, if the SEC is the only landing spot, the SEC is not going to be dictated to by the state of North Carolina. Especially if they dither and sit to the side, because the more and more of those slots get taken up, well, let's say like a Clemson takes up an SEC slot, maybe a Virginia or Virginia Tech, they're going to be in a worse position to help UNC and NC State. It's just short-sighted thinking, Greg. I mean, and I know that everyone wants to hold on to that, but look, the Pac-12 died, and it was one of the oldest conferences, but it was because of this type of thinking. This is the exact type of thinking that killed the Pac-12, and the most scary thing about it is this is coming from someone who controls multiple university systems in the state of North Carolina, and who's actually in government and can, make the decision, stop or promote the decision. I mean, the scary thing is how frustrating does that have to be if you're at UNC, knowing that you can't do anything because you've got a bunch of jackwagons, basically dithering and stopping you from basically preserving your athletic department. I mean, you don't even have a choice because you got a couple of idiots that won't even let you make it.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. I'm sorry, Tar Heel fans. I'm really sorry for you, and that's all I really got, Greg. Great show as always. I hope at the end of the day that people get caught up, and maybe they will. I think these people are just naive because they probably haven't dug into the numbers or had the reality moment. But the more they dither, the more they bind UNC's hands, the more it's going to hurt NC State's ability to land in one of those conferences. Anyway, take care, Greg.
Appreciate it, sir. Great call.
All right.
Great call. We did get some news. News from Heather Dinich. Remember, this is the second day of the spring meeting. Heather Dinich. Hold on.
Call from
Immaculate.
Can you just give me one moment, please?
Of course.
I do appreciate it. I just want to talk about what Heather Dinich has just reported. It's the second day of the spring meeting. CFP Executive Director Bill Hancock said the CFP Management Committee did a bracket exercise as part of their spring meeting. He said implementing the 12-team playoff is on track for this fall. Hancock said they talked about future sites, but no decisions or specific cities. I don't like this next part. Also talked about adding more officiating crews, neutral crews for all 11 games. I don't know what is meant by neutral crews.
Probably neutral to the two teams playing.
Okay, I'm hoping it's not a conglomerate of where these guys haven't worked with each other. Hopefully you're correct on that. You probably are. Hancock said the budget for family travel expenses increased from $1.5 million to $7.5 million. Hancock said they didn't talk about format beyond the next two seasons. Hancock said Pat Chun stepped down from the selection committee after moving from Washington State to Washington. They're looking for a replacement to start his 3-year term. The last one is Army and Navy both stress they want to keep their game where it is scheduled. Hancock said, the floor is yours, Immaculate. How you doing, sir?
Pretty good. I'm going to call in real quick and chat with you. Don't got a ton of time, but it's kind of interesting to see now how much of this is going on in North Carolina and how that place has become maybe center stage. I know not center of your stage, but yeah. I tend to think everything going on with the ACC revolves around that state right now, and not just the courts, but also with those schools and with the political fight going on in that state. But that guy you're talking about, he is a Wake Forest grad, so I would expect it to be a wet blanket. Like,
Yep. I should have added that in. There's conversations going on though. Some frustration that we're capturing here at Peek Around the Corner. So we'll see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know. One other little tidbit that caught my eye that I thought I'd share with you that I think is important, could mean nothing. But it looks like the rest of the Ivy is now, the Ivy League itself has filed an amicus brief in support of Dartmouth and not allowing or not supporting this idea of the unionization.
Yeah.
So that they realize, like, if that passes, that goes right through them all.
Yeah.
It happens. So this is that fight. It's kind of at that point where we're at the inflection point here. I mean, whatever happens there, whatever direction that ends up going, people might think it's the Ivy. It doesn't matter. It matters. It's going to matter to an awful lot. It's ground zero right now. So just keep an eye on that thing, because that thing could shift real quick. But I don't know. I kind of think the USC case isn't actually going to pass. So this one may serve to be the big deal. We'll see. But
you don't think the USC one's going to pass?
No.
Really? Okay.
No. The Northwestern case didn't pass, and they're basically the exact same case, except now what Northwestern students didn't have back then to their benefit, now the students have NIL, and that's going straight into the athletic departments to be paid directly to students. So if anything, the situation is actually better for the students than it was when Northwestern's case with the NLRB didn't pass. And it was largely stated because they're a part of the Big Ten, they're competing against large state universities that NLRB has no jurisdiction over, so they would have made for an unfair situation and made it actually worse for those students. So they didn't go for Northwestern. And everyone in the media back then was saying, oh, it's going to pass. This was a dead ringer to pass. And it didn't pass.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what we're seeing now, is all the media saying the same thing. USC is dead ringer, it's going to pass. I mean, it's in California. We think that, But, I mean, just looking at the case itself, the situation is actually reasonably better for those students now than it was then.
Remind me what year the North Carolina?
Northwestern?
Northwestern, yeah.
2014, 2015.
Yeah, and they get new members on there, so.
And it's that I don't like to go into politics too much, but that, right, let's just say the previous guy put a lot of guys on there.
Okay.
It's not really right now. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But my read on it is I could be wrong. I just letting people know, like, this is not as slam dunk, I think, as a lot of people are portraying it.
Okay.
I hope that these kids can get what they're worth. They can get that. I don't think that's the one, because they paused it for like a month or two. Like, they just stopped with the hearing. And then when they restarted back up, they finished within like 2 days. So it's like they were waiting for something, and either they got it and they went through it real quick, or they didn't get it and they just said, we just have to end this. But right as that was going on, as they finished from going through it, that's when the Notre Dame complaint was filed. Mm-hmm. So that kind of seems like it could be a continuation of that situation. If USC passes, I don't know why they really need to do that. So, yeah, what you got?
I got a question for you, but we do have breaking news because you're on the phone. 2 minutes ago, Auburn has landed a commitment from Keandre Lambert-Smith, KLS, who's regarded as the number one wide receiver in the transfer portal. Big-time puzzle piece for the Tigers. Lambert-Smith.
Going on at Auburn?
Huh? Going to Auburn, yeah.
What is going on at Auburn? They have been doing pretty well this portal, haven't they?
Yeah. Where did Sam Brown go to? Because Sam Brown was regarded the number one receiver. I didn't know he ended up. I I thought Lambert Smith. It depends on who's ranking them. Maybe on 3 ranked Kendra Lambert Smith number 1, but on 247 there was Sam Brown number 1. But
Auburn might beat Alabama this year. How about that?
we'll see. We'll see. What is your Bush push to? What would you like to be able to retroactively change for your favorite team, the Iowa Hawkeyes? Besides the invalid hand signal.
Man. This is easy. This is so easy. Brian should have never been promoted from offensive line coach to offensive coordinator because he was like the best offensive line coach of all time, and he became the worst offensive coordinator of all time, and now we've lost him because of it. So there's my push.
Wow. Yes, that's oh my God. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Yeah. All righty. Anything else, sir?
No, I just wanted to touch base with you real quick. I got a delivery coming in, so I got to get off. But I just wanted to say I appreciate it. Just got eyeballs on this North Carolina stuff, and you always seem to have your fingers all over it. So I appreciate it, man.
You got it. Appreciate it. Thank you, buddy. Talk to you later.
Talk to you.
Great call by Mr. Hawkeye. Does anyone think that Florida State and Clemson have had talks with other conferences before the lawsuits with ACC's resolved? If you're asking me, Mr. Doc Gibbs, the answer is no. Not first-hand conversations. No way.
Call from
Justin.
We got Mr. North Carolina State Wolfpack, Mr. Justin Lucas. The floor is yours.
I was looking through my Twitter feed earlier today, and I saw it pop up, and I just wanted to call in to give a few thoughts. My first one is he's Phil Berger, the Senate president. He's the most powerful for a number of reasons. The first reason is because he's been the Senate president for 15 years. So when you've been around that long, you sort of accrue respect and political capital. And the second reason why he is powerful is because he controls a supermajority. So the governor is really irrelevant in terms of the legislature here. And then I saw someone mention that Phil Berger went to Wake Forest. Well, this may be too inside baseball, but starting in January of 2025, both the Senate President, Phil Berger, and the Speaker of the House is going to be Wake Forest grads. So the two most powerful people in the state are all going to be demon deacons. The other thing that I wanted to mention was, and I don't know what your views on this are, is everyone knows about UNC and NC State. Of course, they're going to have political clout in North Carolina. They're state universities. But Duke is the second largest private employer. Duke University is the second largest private employer in the state. And I'm sure that comes with it some clout as well. And, of course, Wake Forest has some pretty important people in high places. So I'm not really surprised to see him mention all four together.
Mm-hmm.
Were you?
No, well, especially after the conversation I had earlier today.
Right.
It's we're calling it a quicksand. It might become a quagmire. There is a little bit of a difference between the two. They're sitting on top of the quicksand. They're not kind of stuck in there yet, but there is a lot of interests that have their hands in the pie instead of UNC Chapel Hill only being the only decision makers in this. And you're starting to see the layers and layers and layers of complications in this. We know of at least one, and batch. I think that's the right word. Batch of questions that was forwarded from one body to the next, and there's some frustrations, confusion. I mean, okay, I think most people would say, yeah, the Board of Governors, they're not going to start litigation, right? They're not going to do it, right? And so, but what if we woke up tomorrow morning, lo and behold, Florida State and Clemson have they've reached a settlement, and let's say the number is pretty high. Okay, let's say it's early, but they decided let's put $350 million each. The number is really high.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
What I mean, how would North Carolina Chapel Hill even begin to respond? How would they uncoil themselves? What would they do? The decision-making process and all that stuff it's going to be highly contentious, wouldn't you say? Or am I off the beaten path?
No, I think you're absolutely correct. And here, if you remember, the resolution that they passed was a financial plan. One would think a financial plan to leave a conference would have to include a settlement number, like what you're going to have to pay to get out of the ACC. And I am personally skeptical that UNC could get past the board a settlement figure that is $300 million. I mean, I don't think they'd be able to. I think people would say that is completely financially irresponsible to pay $300 million. Now, just saying what I think they would say, not what my particular view on that would be, because they probably get paid back that money in future media rights money.
Sure.
But currently, I think they'd have a hard time getting a settlement figure of 300. You said 350. I'll say 300 million. I don't think that they'd be able to get that passed because, I mean, the board chair is maybe if NC State was tied together to that, maybe then they could get it approved. But I don't think UNC alone by themselves could get that past the board. It would be the front page news in North Carolina. People would be wondering, where are they getting this $300 million from to pay this? And I think that I don't think they'd be able to get it through the board.
Yeah. Can I just break in here with a little bit of breaking news?
Sure.
Mike Oresco, AAC Commissioner Mike Oresco. That's not the first time I've done that, unfortunately. But AAC Commissioner Mike Oresco has said this before, but in leaving CFP meetings here in Dallas, he emphasizes that college sports will need to move to a tiered collective bargaining model and that the SEC and the Big Ten officials are discussing such possibilities. Breaking news. Again, I happen to think...
that's always been a...
Go ahead.
To me, that's always been the wild card in this ACC situation is what does a potential settlement in the House case that sets up collective bargaining mean for the ACC and for all these other leagues? Because you could see a scenario where, I don't know how we explain this, but if the settlement is there's two tiers, are there even going to be really conferences that exist? I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, would that make a path out easier because there'd be differences in how the entire market is shaped?
Sure.
So to me, that's always been a wild card.
Sure, and this is why I've always, what people have talked to me, I've always believed that it's going to be done by conferences. However, I'm willing to modify that and say you know, the SEC and the Big Ten officials are already discussing such possibilities. They're probably talking about it in that advisory board. So maybe the
Right.
SEC and the Big Ten have the exact same guardrails, whatever that is, right? Whatever they negotiate with it, whatever representation of their student athletes in the Big Ten and the SEC. So maybe it's not done in a Big Ten silo. Maybe it's not done in an SEC silo. Maybe it's done in tiers, and SEC and the Big Ten is one tier.
Right.
But looking at from the perspective of Florida State, let's just talk about Florida State again, right? From their perspective, they're sitting here. They're going to be in a different tier of the SEC and the Big Ten, right? Different media money, different total pie of the ACC, probably completely different guardrails. They don't want to be in that guardrail, right?
Right.
So this is fascinating. Go ahead, Justin.
It is fascinating. I've just been, I'm not surprised that we saw something come up today from Phil Berger about the topic, because the legislature convenes for their short session today. And that'll run till about August sometime.
Okay.
And it probably won't be the last time that he speaks on it, considering how long we'll be there. But I'm absolutely not surprised. I'm sure you aren't either, considering who you talk to. If I were at UNC, I'd probably be a little worried too.
Yeah. Yes.
I think you're right with the analogy about too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And Phil Berger may not understand the collegiate athletic landscape, but it's pretty hard to tell a politician to stay out of his lane.
Yes. It's like the analogy I brought up. You know, it takes one good, big, strong hammer to put in a nail. But if you have five hammers in your hand and you're swinging at that nail, you're probably going to miss.
Right.
And North Carolina doesn't have that one hammer. So that's North Carolina Chapel Hill.
And before I hop off, and I want to be clear, it's not just Phil Berger. I mean, the governor has said it'd be good for the state. I mean, for them to stay together. The speaker has even made some comments, although they were a little farther back. So it's a very interesting situation politically here in the state of North Carolina.
You are correct. All right. Thank you, Mr. Lucas. I do appreciate it. I do appreciate all your help you give me. Behind the curtain, in front of the curtain. I do appreciate it, sir.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
You got it. Thank you. That's Mr. Justin Lucas, Mr. North Carolina State Wolfpack. Tough Tony. Go for Tony. Al Shaver, rest in peace. Also, those 4 stars are rolling in. Al Shaver, the Minnesota North Stars announcer for 26 seasons, has passed away at the age of, I believe, 96. Al Shaver, rest in peace, rest in paradise. No question about it. Thank you, Tony, for your super chat. I do appreciate it.
Call from
JD.
Mr. JD, Mr. Seminole is on the line. Florida State still looking for a wide receiver in the chat. Are they going to get Sam Brown? What is going on at Florida State? The floor is yours, JD.
Not sure. You know, there was some rumors about maybe a player or two that weren't yet in the portal.
Sure.
Putting feelers out in FSU's direction, but we'll see. I'm not going to go too much into that, but yeah, hopefully we get a little bit more. We add a few players at wide receivers. What I'd like to do. There's plenty of talent there, but there's just been some inconsistency in the injuries. There's been quite a few injuries in the spring, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm positive about DJU. Yeah, everybody was kind of people get too caught up in stats. You know, it's a spring game, okay? And a lot of it was the decision-making process. There's things that just seemed more positive to me than did to others. There were times when he went ahead and made the throw, even though the wide receiver might not be open. You know, you just need to go through your progressions, and you need to push things. Be smart about it. Did he make a few mistakes here or there? Yes. But the one thing that's really popped up is they say his decision-making has improved significantly over a month. And you have to consider, he only had a month of practice. Well, now he gets 4 more months of practice. A lot can change in 4 months. But they weren't really going to be a heavy passing team this year anyway. They figured to be a 65-70%, run-pass ratio this year. That was the direction they were moving. So last year they were pass heavy because they couldn't keep some of their key offensive linemen healthy. That's why they've added so much depth, especially in the interior. And I expect them to be a really good rushing team next year. But anyway, got a few things here, and it sort of ties into North Carolina, and then it's still a FSU heavy focused. Whenever we've talked about realignment and when it was the ACC's turn, eventually the politicians would enter the room. Well, they have. They've created a stalemate in North Carolina. And there's just, right now North Carolina needs something to break loose. UNC needs something to break loose for them to become available. I don't think A.G. Moody's, I originally thought her letter and the stories yesterday were just a ceremonial shot across the bow, supporting FSU or whatever. No, I think it's more than that. I think it has to do with sovereign immunity. I think it has to do with the state of Florida, regardless of what's going on in the courts, is not, and I repeat, not going to let the state of North Carolina dictate what Florida sovereign immunity laws mean. And what is their reach? They will not let that happen. What does that mean? I'm not 100% certain. But I've been told that's not going to happen. And now when insiders are suggesting that FSU will leave the ACC even before the court cases are determined, I remember other things that have been said in the past. Before FSU filed their lawsuits, there were people that would suggest that, or didn't suggest, they said they knew the state was backing FSU, that they gave them their blessing. They were going to give them cover if and when the time came. And when they would suggest that the lawsuits weren't necessarily the means to extricate themselves from the conference, they were just one piece in the process, a lot of that really didn't make a lot of sense. Well, now, A.G. Moody, she pops up yesterday. And now there's other articles today talking about what would it look like as far as if FSU was removed from the ACC? What would their liabilities be towards the collective bargaining and some of the liabilities from past, or liabilities in paying past payments to players and so on? There's just a lot of moving pieces here, and I don't know. I'm almost just laying down a prediction here, or I'm more or less in my own statement is that the lawsuit in North Carolina will not determine FSU's fate. That was a rabbit hole up until recently. I don't think it is. I think the state is willing to step in. And if I'm wrong, I'll take the biggest of all L's.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me. But that was the state of Florida stepping in the picture yesterday. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, we just have a little bit of breaking news. If you don't mind, JD.
No, you go ahead.
College football playoffs has made a decision on Army-Navy. The game will be played 6 days after Selection Day, will have no bearing on the selections. If Army or Navy is the highest ranked G5 champ, it advances to the college football playoffs despite playing the other 6 days later. Our story. Look, and I absolutely agree. You can disagree in the chat room or with your phone calls, but Army and Navy, these guys who serve our country, if one of these two teams is the highest rated G5 champ, and then they play the next week, 6 days after the selection's been made, and let's say it's Army, right? They're the highest G5 champ, and they lose the Navy, it don't matter. Army is still should be able to go to the playoffs, and I think obviously it's supported throughout here. The playoff managers, they approved it, so that is fantastic news from my perspective. Army and Navy game played 6 days later after selections day. They're not going to move their game, but it won't have any bearing on those two schools if they are the automatic qualifier as the highest rated G5 champ. Go ahead, JD.
No, that was about it. I've read a lot of things, not just on Twitter and other places, and not just on message boards. There's other outlets, and I have zero. And I think BJ was talking about it yesterday. I think you and I have talked about it in the past, and I've heard others talk about it. And I am in agreement that the state of Florida is not going. Trust me, it doesn't mean that the state of Florida won't respect other courts. I don't mean that. They're not going to allow other courts to determine Florida state law in the reach of sovereign immunity in the state of Florida. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that we reach a scenario, and I'm not saying this happens, I'm saying it's not out of the realm of possibility that the state of Florida doesn't demand FSU leave the ACC.
Yeah.
And you're going to ask me, how do I get there? I'm not even going to go into it right now.
Yeah.
All I am doing is planting a seed right now is more as just pay attention. Pay attention to everybody. Pay attention to events. And if I end up being completely wrong, hey, I'll take that. I don't mind throwing things out there for discussion or things for somebody to ponder. And if I'm way off base, hey, it is what it is. I'm not gonna, it's not gonna stop me from being a thinker or continuing to ponder possibilities. Yeah. But I just there's a lot of things that I've heard in a lot of different places, and it's like in my mind the pieces are starting to fall into place. Yeah. So let's just throwing it out here. Don't be surprised if something happens in June.
All right, June. We're marking it down. JD. No, I appreciate it.
I'm not saying they announce in June.
I get it.
The ACC is supposed to make payments in June 1st.
Yeah.
I believe it's June 1st. What if they don't? You're adding 3 new members to the ACC July 1st. You're supposed to announce by August 15th, and there are some people that are you would consider FSU insiders have laid down the gauntlet to say, no, FSU is leaving. They're announcing this year they are leaving. this summer. It's happening. So when you put all these pieces together, and then now the Attorney General steps into the picture, you're like, okay, well, there's just a lot to consider here, and it's fixing to be May.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But anyway,
Alrighty, man. I appreciate it,
but
JD.
if I end up being crazy, I'll make a tinfoil PATC hat. You can sell it in your show. Okay?
Beautiful. We'll sell it on the website.
In your store. I'm sorry.
Got
but
it.
Anyway.
You got it.
All right, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, bye-bye.
Great call by Mr. Seminole. My question, Justin Lucas, am I supposed to read the transcript? Is that what I'm reading? The transcript? Am I reading the transcript?
Call from
Tristan Fibes.
Tristan, can you hold on a second?
Yes.
I do appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and read the transcript of Phil Berger. I think that's what Justin wants me to read, but I am not sure. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Senator Phil Berger would like to see the ACC continue as a major conference. Senator Leader Phil Berger, Republican Rockingham County, discussed the status of the Atlantic Coast Conference with reporters on April 24th. Okay, so this transcript is, and I'm going to read it. My primary concern is for the state of North Carolina and in the context of college athletics. And I think the Atlantic Coast Conference has a long and storied history with its relationship in North Carolina. We took special steps recently to keep the ACC in North Carolina with the move to Charlotte. And I would like to see the ACC continue as a major conference for all college athletics. Whether there are larger issues out there would imperil that or create problems for that, I hope not. And if the net result of that is keeping North Carolina State and North Carolina in the same conference, fine. If it means keeping the Big Four together, fine. I do think that there are some larger challenges out there that seem to be driven by major college football more than anything else. My thought is that if you give it a couple years, it will settle out because a lot of it has to do with how much money has been offered. Campuses and conferences put their teams on television. Quickly change as far as that concerned. How quickly that changes, I think those things could change again pretty quickly. I hope no rash decisions take place. We've got 2 lawsuits that are ongoing. Actually, maybe 3 lawsuits. Now, about some teams wanting to leave the conference want to keep them in. I think the courts will hopefully have all that settled out. We've got 2 lawsuits that are ongoing. Actually, maybe 3 lawsuits. What's the third one? Now, about some teams wanting to leave the conference wants to keep them in. I think the courts will hopefully have all that settled out. What is he talking about, a third lawsuit? I don't know what's going on. Let me know in the comments section with your phone calls what Phil Berger means by that. We've got 2 lawsuits that are ongoing. Actually, maybe 3 lawsuits. I don't understand that at all. Tristan, thanks for your patience. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Greg. Listen, the story here about the difficulties of North Carolina, UNC possibly exiting the ACC and trying to get into the P2, Look, Greg, this is the hell that they created for themselves.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'm just going to speak bluntly. Okay? North Carolina is a cesspool. You have 4 universities that get to run a conference for their benefit and for the benefit of North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, Greg, and JD didn't say this, but I'm going to say it. I guarantee you that the posture that the state of Florida is assuming in this legal battle is partially predicated on the allegations of corruption that Florida State has put into their lawsuit.
Mm.
I can guarantee you that they had people going to these officials in the state and saying, look, here's what we think's going on, and then presenting their evidence and saying, we need you to back us. And the state of North Carolina, Greg, it's an abomination, okay? They get to have the ACC tournament there. They have the championship game for the football there. You got 4 members there. You know, you've got this little voting block that gets to run the conference, and I think UVA is part of that voting block where they go along with whatever those 4 want. And, you know, the corruption that comes from that is a natural byproduct. This is human nature. And this is why I think there are individuals at UNC who understand that this is what the ACC is. And they want greener pastures for the Tar Heels. And, you know, but now you've got these political difficulties. It's a byproduct of them being able to run their own conference for 70 years.
Yes. That is,
right?
that is a large part to this, isn't it? Shame on me for not thinking about that. Go ahead, sir.
Well, and this is all I really wanted to say is that it's a cesspool. And the things that are going on, I mean, look, I hope they can sort it out. I think North Carolina is a fantastic brand. And personally, I have a great deal of fondness for NC State. I think they would be a fine addition into the P2. You know, but they got to come to terms with what the conference really is. And this guy that you quoted here, you know, saying that they want to keep the 4 schools together. Well,
yeah,
that's all right, fine. If you keep the 4 schools together, they might come to that decision. They're costing North Carolina a seat at the big boys table. They're going to become pretty irrelevant over time if that's what they really do.
Yeah.
If that's the decision they're going to make, they're just going to become irrelevant. And so I don't have a whole lot to add other than that. This story cannot be properly discussed without putting it in the context of they get to run their own conference, and it's, I think, become corrupt. And I think at least one of those schools wants out of it.
you know, I have not. You bring up an unbelievable great angle to this. They've been running that conference, Tobacco Road, for decades. You know, they've invested. They got more championships. They got everything going on in the state of North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Moved the corporate to Charlotte. There's so much political IOUs have been paid off. So much money has been handed over. So much money for the community. They've been running the conference. You're right with Virginia. Man, that's hard to give up. That's hard to give up, especially for some of those politicians that have been in the same leadership position for 15 years.
Correct.
Great angle.
Yeah, and I'll add this too, because this is part of the picture I'm trying to paint here. If you engage in discussions, you know, through forums and social media with Tar Heel fans, one of the things you'll hear them say is the ACC is not the ACC without North Carolina, and North Carolina is not North Carolina without the ACC.
Yeah.
And I believe it. I mean, I don't dispute that. That is their identity. More than any other school in the country, they get to run their conference. Probably more than Texas ran the Southwest Conference. Probably more than Ohio State thinks it can run the Big Ten. Probably more than Alabama runs the SEC. They run that conference, and now the political entanglements are making it nearly impossible for the Tar Heels to exit. And they're going to become irrelevant if they don't get out of this.
Yeah, okay, so let me, my mind is swirling here. I got to be honest with you. I don't know what Phil Berger meant by this. I don't even know if he knows what he's talking about. But the idea, I'm going to put up on the screen, Tristan. You'll be the first person I ask, but I'm going to be asking everybody in the chat room, anybody who calls. At the very end, I think this is what Justin Lucas wanted me to because this last part was not in the article. And this is the transcript of what Phil Berger said to the reporters today. This was not in the article, but it's in the transcript. And Justin Lucas, I think this is what he wanted me to point out. At the very end of Phil Berger's statement, he says, I would hope nothing rash, no rash decisions take place. You know, we've got 2 lawsuits that are ongoing, actually maybe 3 lawsuits. Now, about some teams wanting to leave the conference. The conference wants to keep them in. I think the courts will hopefully have that all settled out. Did Phil Berger, what did he mean by maybe 3 lawsuits? Is that just because he doesn't know? Or is that because he does know that something is about to pop? What do you think,
So
Tristan?
I think that's a fantastic question. I lean towards the interpretation that he knows something is about to pop.
Holy smokes.
Now, the reason I say that is because in reality, it's not even 2. It's 4.
Yeah.
Right? It's 4. You've got the 2 lawsuits against the
Sure.
AC and then the 2 that they filed against Clemson and FSU. So when he says we've got 2 lawsuits, I think he's talking about it from the perspective of we've got 2 pairs of lawsuits.
Yes, that's what I
Right.
think. But then he says maybe 3 lawsuits.
Right. And so to me, that third one that's mentioned there is one that's about to pop.
And which
Is
one
what
is
I
that?
think it means.
And, wow. I don't know. What
So,
did he
Greg,
mean? You might be
here's
right.
just an idea. Here's an idea. I don't know if this is true, and I'm not trying to stir this up.
You go ahead and stir it all up. That's fine.
It might be, Greg, that one of the other Magnificent Seven will have a concrete offer, and they're preparing their lawsuit, and the ACC is aware of it. That's what I can't help but think. We got to remember this whole crisis really started with the Magnificent Seven tweets.
Yes.
And those are the most valuable brands in that conference. And I can't help but think, I mean, look, I'm pretty certain that other than Florida State and Clemson, there's other schools in that list that would find their way into the P2. I just can't help but think that there's got to be another school that's got their ducks in a row and might be preparing to file their own lawsuit.
Yeah.
So,
all right,
I mean,
Tristan, I appreciate the phone call, sir. Incredible phone call. Incredible. You brought us,
and Greg, I felt like I had to say it because you know you're a reputable guy running a reputable channel.
Yeah.
And I didn't want you to have to say it.
Yeah, well, no, I should have said it. I should have said it as an angle, and I haven't. Shame on me. A brilliant phone call. Thank you, sir.
All right, Greg. Hey, listen, keep up the good work, and I'll talk to you later.
Got it. Appreciate it.
Okay, bye-bye.
Justin Lucas. Mr. Justin Lucas, I need you to give me a call if you got one moment. 763 260-1333. I know you've already called once already. You already had to talk to the fat guy from Minnesota. If you got a minute, I need you to give me a call. I need you to give me a call. Mr. Justin Lucas, North Carolina State Wolfpack. Chris Hughes, the caller is exactly right about North Carolina. South Carolina realized that back in 1970. That is why they left. Pure arrogance. I don't want to go that. I get what Tristan said. I get what you're saying, but I don't want to hammer on the great school. Okay, if you watch the video, he seems confused on how many are actually found. Okay, if that's the case, okay, then it's just the guy who doesn't really know what's really the intricate. He doesn't know what's really going on. He knows it on a surface level. Okay, you don't have to call in, Lucas. You don't have to call in. I do appreciate it. Wow. I don't know. I put it out there on X, formerly known as Twitter. I put the, I don't know. I do not know. I want to thank everybody who has come on in today for this very lively Wednesday afternoon, early evening show. I do appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't done so yet, please hit the subscribe button. Get yourself subscribed and open up your notifications. Turn on those notifications, because we have Peek Around the Corner. College football, Peek Around the Corner can pop up at any time. We could pop up again late tonight. We could pop up again late tonight. Who knows? Or early tomorrow morning. So you got to have the notifications on. Subscribe. Smash the like button if you like. No problem, Lucas. We're going to close it up. I understand your angle on it. I get it. He probably was confused. Probably. Most likely. But if not, I do appreciate everybody for coming on in. I appreciate the incredible generosity given to this channel. Mr. Chris Hughes, Kerry Goldnose, Tough Tony, the Evil Badger, Ryan Willie, Ryan Thomas. Appreciate all of you guys' incredible generosity to the channel. The great comments, the great phone calls. Stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. We're following every story, the portal, everything that is going on. We're going to be making our way too early conference predictions here right after the portal closes, right? The portal closes in terms of a player entering the portal, not leaving the portal. We're going to have people joining programs after the portal is closed. But anyways, we're going to be doing our way too early predictions, conference races. I can't wait. I'm all fired up. For this college football season. It was a fun show. Greg, who's your moderator tonight? I don't have one. The moderator, Mireya Hernandez Garcia, the one who rules with an iron fist, is busy. So I've had no moderator. Absolutely no moderators. These 2 hours always seem to fly by. They do. They absolutely do. But I do appreciate it. We could come on again live tonight. I am not afraid. And I know you guys are not afraid to be a legend in the PATC community. I appreciate it. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.